Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, starring your host, Christian Reitz.
Hot dog, let's go!
Welcome to the Disabled Podcast, a show that incorporates disabilities with the magic of Disney. Welcome to episode number 10, entitled Disney After Dark Part 2. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Again, that's hashtag the Disabled Podcast when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. And now, here is your host, Christian Reitz. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Disabled Podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to cover Disney After Dark, the series we started last time we had a podcast, in the last episode, and we're going to cover part 2. And today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about all things parties. So we're going to talk about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party at Magic Kingdom, as well as the brand new Disney's Jollywood Nights over at Hollywood Studios. So without any further ado, let's get on with today's episode. Now first up, let's talk about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. Now this spooky celebration is perfect for those families that are looking for a way to enjoy Halloween that's also very kid-friendly. Now this is running on select nights from mid-August through the early November, and this party features not so frightening activities for the entire family, including your little ones, like trick-or-treating. It also has a themed parade, and of course, the spectacular Hocus Pocus Villain Spelltacular show. Now, for those of you who are in wheelchairs, or you might be wondering, well, what is accessibility like? For all my wheelchair friends and all my friends that maybe have mobility issues. Well, if you're wondering about that accessibility, Disney's actually made great strides in including everyone so that they can enjoy the festivities. Now, like I said in the last episode, the park offers wheelchair rentals, and guests can request accommodations for viewing areas for the parade and also the fireworks at night. Plus, they have an accessible trick-or-treating area where everyone can take part in the fun. So if you're looking for accessibility, that's actually what you're going to find, is that there are trick-or-treating spots accessible for all people to enjoy. So you want to make sure you take advantage of that. Now, the pricing for the event, it does vary depending on the date, with tickets usually starting around $109, and they can even go up to $199. But now it's definitely worth checking out the official Disney website for the most current pricing and availability, especially if you're looking to go during peak nights that are even closer to Halloween season. So again, if you've had experiences with this, or you might be somebody that's looking into this, comment down below, especially if you're the ones that have been to this and you've had a first-hand experience about the accessibility and all that there is to enjoy. Go ahead and comment down below, and let's just help each other out. So now, let's talk about Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Now, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party usually runs on select nights from early November through December. And I gotta tell you, hearing from friends of mine that have actually been to this event, they say it's like stepping into a winter wonderland. Now, of course, at this event in the Magic Kingdom, you can expect to enjoy holiday-themed attractions like Space Mountain and Jingle Cruise, which is Jungle Cruise in normal operating hours. You can also enjoy festive snacks at different areas around the park, specialized character meet and greets, and of course the incredible Once Upon a Christmas Time parade right on Main Street. Now for our listeners needing accessibility accommodations, Disney continues to impress us, and wheelchairs are actually available, so you can get wheelchair rentals up at guest services, and there are designated viewing areas for the parade and for Minnie's fireworks at the very end of the night. So it's all about making sure everyone can soak and enjoy the spirit of the season. In fact, that fireworks show that I told you is Minnie's, I believe it's Minnie's Wonderful Christmas Time Fireworks. I believe that's the name of the title. I could be wrong about that, but there are fireworks that are specialized for that specific event. So you want to make sure that you stay as long as you can and catch this fireworks, because Main Street gets packed. So make sure you get a good seat. And again, use those accommodations that I told you about. Now, tickets for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party usually start at around $109 as well, but just like the Halloween party, the prices can vary based on the night that you choose. So again, I'm going to point you back to the Disney website. Be sure to visit the official Disney website for all the latest details and for even discounts on ticketing. Now, you want to make sure that when you do this as well, especially for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, that you book in advance, because these kinds of events, they will sell out very quickly. So you want to get on it right when the deadline opens. So usually Disney will announce that on their website. So keep an eye out for next year, 2025. And last, but certainly not least, let's chat about the newest event in Walt Disney World, and that is Disney's Jollywood Nights over at Hollywood Studios. Now, of course, this is one of those new offerings that debuted recently, and it brings a fresh twist to the holiday celebrations at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, Jollywood Nights features holiday entertainment, themed food, and drinks, and as well as special character experiences that are all set against a beautiful backdrop of decorations and lights. Now, again, when it does come to accessibility, Disney's still committed to ensuring that all guests can enjoy the festivities. Now, similar to the previous events, like I did mention, they do provide wheelchair rentals, as well as accessible viewing areas for the shows and the parades. Now, tickets for Jollywood Nights currently start around $159, and they're perfect for anyone looking to celebrate the holiday season in style. Again, don't forget to check the official Disney website for all the most accurate, up-to-date information on all of these events that are happening, whether they're at Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios. Now, remember, for all of these events that I've mentioned in this episode as well as the last episode, all of these are specially ticketed events, which means that for regular park guests, you're actually going to have to leave by 6 p.m., especially for like Magic Kingdom. Because if you don't have that wristband or that ticket, they actually won't allow you to stay for the rest of the party. So it usually starts about 7 p.m. and goes to about 12 a.m. Now, for those of you that have a wristband, you have your tickets ready, you'll just go up to the ticket counter and you'll get your wristband for that night. You can usually enter about 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Before the party starts at approximately 7 p.m. for Magic Kingdom and for Hollywood Studios. So again, you want to make sure that you plan your days, especially if you're planning a trip to Disney, around those events. So if you don't have a ticket for those events, then unfortunately you will have to exit by 6 p.m. But what I recommend is going park hopping. So if you're at Hollywood Studios, you can always get on the Skyliner and go straight to Epcot and enjoy their holiday festivities over there with the Festival of the Holidays, like I mentioned last week. And again, that's just as fun as any Hollywood Studios party or Magic Kingdom party. They always have something good to do at those theme parks. Now, Animal Kingdom doesn't currently have a themed party because of the animals at night. So they usually close early, usually around 4:30, 5 o'clock every night. So again, Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, those are the only ones that have parties, but Epcot is the one that has the Festival of the Holidays. So you want to plan your trip around that. But again, you can go on Disney's website and look at all the dates to plan your trip around all these magical nights. Well, guys, thank you for joining me for this week's short episode of the Disabled podcast. In the next episode, I'm actually going to be talking about something that is actually not in the theme parks. So we're actually going to title the next episode Straight Out of Disney. We're going to talk about one of my favorite places to go to. That's actually not a Disney theme park, which I know is crazy. So stay tuned in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Disabled podcast. We only have a few more episodes left before we officially close out season 2. And you never know, I might even mention something about season 3. You never know. So stay tuned for that. Hey, if you don't already, be sure to go like us on Facebook at the Disabled Podcast. That's the capital D, capital I, capital S, lowercase abled podcast on Facebook. That's where I'm going to be posting a lot of updates about future episodes of the Disabled Podcast, future merch items of the Disabled Podcast, and so much more. If we change a certain time, or if there's a delay because of something that my computer might be doing or editing and all that, I'll be sure to mention all of that on Facebook. So stay tuned to the Facebook page. Now, I do want to say something here because I know that a lot of you are like, well, Christian, you say you upload this every 2 weeks at 8:30 p.m. on Saturdays, but sometimes you might delay it because of your editing program or something might have come up. whether you have family in town. And that is true. I will say that is something that I have been struggling with. So I have thought about it over the weekend. And here's what's going to happen. This is a brand new thing I'm doing that will take into effect at the very next episode of the Disable podcast. Every 2 weeks, that's every 2 weeks, on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m., that will be the brand new time for the Disable podcast from the next episode and moving forward. So again, what that's going to allow me to do is to give you guys the best edited content and to give you the best information of whatever I'm speaking about in that episode. So Monday night, every 2 weeks at 7:30 p.m. will be the brand new episodes of the Disable podcast moving forward. So starting in 2 weeks, on Monday night, 7:30 p.m., you can be sure to catch episode number 11 of the Disable podcast. And by the way, like I said, we have a merch store. I don't know if you heard me mention that earlier. The merch store is there for you. So again, we have all new kinds of products coming out every so often. So be sure to go check out the Disable Podcast merch store, as well as be ready for that new time for the Disable Podcast. Well, guys, that's all the time I have for this week's episode of the Disable Podcast. Again, be sure to go like us on Facebook for all the updates on the Disable Podcast. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see ya
Real soon.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Disable Podcast. Be sure to use our hashtag the Disable Podcast, when sharing this podcast to all of your social media platforms. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see ya real soon.